Chapter 1064. The Walton family's banquet was quite prestigious among the top families in the United States. Although the Walton family would gather 3 times a year, which made the top family speechless, it was inevitable for them to send someone to attend the banquet. The Walton family was famous for being low-key. It didn't matter if those big shots came or not, they could just send a message. They didn't care too much about their reputation. But even so, the Walton family's banquet was a party that everyone in the United States, even the entire Western world, wanted to attend. But as mentioned earlier, the Walton family was very low-key, so unless it was a guest invited by the family members, other people couldn't get in. Americans, or to be exact, Westerners, liked gatherings very much because it was a way to bond. In addition to sucking up to the Walton family, this kind of gathering was also a chance for them to get to know each other and look for partners. Even some celebrities, whether they were from the entertainment industry or the stylistic world, would find a chance to come. After all, there weren't many opportunities to build a relationship with such a rich family. Since they were here to make friends, it was impossible for them to come at the right time. If they only came to attend the banquet for 1 or 2 hours and then left, they wouldn't be able to meet anyone. Therefore, many people would come very early. Generally speaking, the lower the status, the more people wanted to know more people, so they would come early. Of course, they wouldn't come early in the morning, but after lunch, people would come one after another at 2 or 3 o'clock in the afternoon. It wasn't the first time the Walton family held such a banquet, so they were naturally prepared. In addition to the main banquet hall, there were also several banquet halls with dried fruits, cold dishes, and so on, just to give these people a place to stay. Just like the birthday celebrations of the elderly in China, since it was a banquet, naturally someone needed to be there to greet them. And the person who was there to greet them was the 3rd generation of the Walton family. Originally, except for Hope, everyone else had to go. After all, Hope was a councilman. He wanted to be an official, so he wouldn't entertain others. He didn't even come today to avoid arousing suspicion. One must know that in the United States, corruption was a serious crime that could lead to imprisonment. Therefore, people in politics couldn't let others have any evidence against them. Even when they wanted to donate money to politics, they had to do it secretly. Who would dare to come in public? Not to mention in such an occasion. Under such circumstances, basically every year, the person who came to greet these guests was Jim Walton's eldest son, Cooper Walton, with a group of younger brothers and sisters. In the past, Pra Walton naturally had to go, but since last year, she didn't have to go anymore. Who told her to be so powerful? In such a family, whoever made more money was the most powerful. However, she couldn't go just in time. She still had to go earlier. So after lunch, Pra Walton and Jiang Hai stayed in the room for a few hours. At around 4 o'clock in the afternoon, she changed into an evening dress and went downstairs with Jiang Hai, who was wearing a suit, to one of the rooms. Although she didn't have to entertain, she still had to show her face. You can wait here for a while. After I meet these people, I will come back to you. After coming to the room, Pra Walton looked at Jiang Hai and said with a smile. Jiang Hai also knew that although the social activities of Americans in Huaxia were different, she, as the host, had to ask if the food was good and if there was anything else they needed. This was inevitable regardless of whether it was Huaxia or the United States, so Jiang Hai just nodded and didn't say anything. Seeing that Jiang Hai agreed, Pra Walton also walked to some people she knew in the room. These people were invited by the Walton family, so basically, everyone went to take care of the guests of each family. If you didn't know this person, you didn't need to go up and say anything. Even if you weren't familiar with them, it didn't matter. Looking at Pra Walton entering the crowd like a butterfly, Jiang Hai also found a place to sit down. Although he ate a lot at noon, he consumed a lot, so now as soon as he sat down, he began to eat again. Just as he was eating happily, a few people came over and unconsciously walked in front of Jiang Hai. Jiang Hai looked up and found that he knew the people who came. The guy who was scolded yesterday for being a bumpkin seemed to be called Blair or something. He didn't remember. The other 2 people looked familiar, but he didn't know them. Looking at the eyes of these people, Jiang Hai frowned and threw a biscuit into his mouth. What's the matter? While chewing the biscuit in his mouth, Jiang Hai looked at the people in front of him and said. His attitude was naturally not very good. Oh, it's nothing. I just came to see you because I don't think I've seen you in person before. Brett said he had seen you before, so I asked him to bring me here. These are all my friends. Hearing Jiang Hai's words, a man he didn't know at this time said with a smile. Looking at him, Jiang Hai raised his eyebrows. What did this guy say? Why am I so uncomfortable? What does he mean by come to see me? Am I some kind of animal? But he couldn't find anything to nitpick. Now you've seen me. I'm going to continue eating. Is there a problem? Hearing this man's words, Jiang Hai shook his head and didn't want to talk to him anymore. He lowered his head and continued to eat the cake in front of him. But these people didn't come to see Jiang Hai eat the cake. Seeing that Jiang Hai was going to ignore them, the man leaned forward, put his hand on the table where Jiang Hai was eating, and looked at him condescendingly. My name is Austin Walton, and Pulla is my sister. I heard that Mr. Jiang is good at sports. Are you interested in exercising before the banquet? Even if it's for eating more later, it's also good. Looking at Jiang Hai, the man said with a fake smile. Hearing his words, his bad friends around him all laughed. Originally, these guys were not good people. Naturally, now that they had a chance to ridicule Jiang Hai, they wouldn't let it go. Of course, these people only dared to laugh. With Jiang Hai's current strength, they couldn't afford to offend him. As the second generation, it was okay to bully others, but you had to know that you couldn't afford to offend the person you bullied. A person who could come to the Walton banquet and had a close relationship with Pra Walton, to be honest, as long as these people weren't stupid, they only dared to laugh. Sorry. The laughter here soon attracted the attention of all the people present. At this time, Pra Walton also saw the situation over there. When she saw that Jiang Hai was surrounded by those people, she couldn't help but stare. Then she apologized to the person who was talking, and directly walked over. Without saying anything, she came to Jiang Hai's side and glared at these people. Are you looking for death? How dare you provoke him? Don't you know who he is? With her hand on Jiang Hai's shoulder, Pra Walton directly said coldly without saying anything. Hearing her words, people here were more or less a little scared. How could people in this circle not know the existence of Pra Walton? This female devil was not as easy to get along with as one imagined. Although she was beautiful, she was a poisonous rose. If you dared to provoke her, it wouldn't be as simple as a root thorn, it would be fatal. In an instant, these people were a little scared. Ahem, Sister Pra Walton, you don't have to be so nervous. We don't have any bad intentions. We just want to ask Jiang Hai if he's good at sports. If he's good at sports, we'll go out and play. If not, forget it. We're also trying to build a good relationship. Hearing Pra Walton's words, Brett flashed, and Austin also smiled awkwardly and whispered. It doesn't matter. I'm good at sports. What do you want to play? You can tell me. Patting Pra Walton's hand, Jiang Hai didn't know what these people wanted to do, but he could play with them. Anyway, he was a little bored. I heard that you played basketball, and you're very good at it. Let's play tennis today. Hearing Jiang Hai's words, Austin's eyes lit up, and then he said with a smile. Yes, he had already checked Jiang Hai and knew that Jiang Hai was very good at basketball. He even went to the NBA for a trial. If it wasn't because he was really too rich, maybe he would have debuted in the NBA, so playing basketball with him was definitely impossible. Among his good friends, there was an expert tennis player. Today, he had specially invited him over. Tennis? Play with you? Okay, let's go. Hearing his words, Jiang Hai thought for a moment. He had played tennis before, but only once. It was many, many years ago. At that time, there was a popular anime called The Tennis Prince. After watching the anime, he felt that it was very interesting, so he went to their school's tennis department to play. But to be honest, he didn't have any talent. He just understood the rules, that's all, but it doesn't matter now. With his physical fitness, except for billiards, which requires planning and may not produce miracles, he has no problem playing other things. No, don't get me wrong. Playing tennis is playing tennis, but the person who wants to play with you is not me, but him. Chapter 1065. Playing tennis with you is playing tennis, but the opponent is not me, but him. As Austin Walton stepped aside, a foreigner in a suit came from a distance with a smile on his face. Looking at his smiling face, many people next to him took a deep breath. Even Pra Walton's face became ugly. Novak Djokovic, this guy is the current number 1 in the tennis world. Pra Walton whispered as she pulled Zhang Hai's sleeve. Hearing her words, Zhang Hai also looked at the man. This man is my friend. You can call him Novak. Novak, this is your enemy today. Looking at Pra Walton's serious face, Austin Walton said with a proud face. He did have the right to be proud. At least no one would think that Zhang Hai might be the opponent of the current number 1 player in the tennis world. Austin, what are you doing? You found a professional to compete with Zhang Hai. What's the point of winning? Looking at Austin Walton, Pra Walton walked in front of him, raised her hands, and looked at Austin Walton indifferently. Hearing her words, the people next to her also reacted. Indeed, Djokovic was the world's number 1 in the tennis world. Even if he won, it would be an unfair victory. Zhang Hai, on the other hand, was just a novice. What was there to compare? A professional beating a novice. If this got out, Djokovic would feel very ashamed. The reason why he was here was very simple. He knew that although he was very popular now, athletes were always athletes. Their sports career was limited. Now that he was 30 years old, he needed to think about his own way out. Similar to Beckham, his wife was also a very powerful woman named Elena Ristic. It was through a friend of hers that he got to know Austin Walton. When Austin Walton said that he wanted him to do him a favor, he could not refuse. He could only bite the bullet and come over. Hearing this, he was even more embarrassed. However, there was nothing she could do. It seemed that Austin was not going to let her leave just because of this woman's words. Hey, Pra Walton, you're making a mountain out of a molehill. We're just playing, just playing. It doesn't count as a win or a loss. Don't you think so, Zhang? Otherwise, are you scared? Austin Walton said in an extremely childish manner after hearing Pra Walton's words. Hearing what he said, Zhang Hai really wanted to give him the middle finger. What the hell was this? Why was it so melodramatic and Shinibu? Whether it was from the way things were arranged or the way they spoke, were all of their IQs below 80? The plot of slapping someone's face for the sake of slapping them was clearly a joke from 5 years ago. How did he encounter it today? If he said now, yeah, how can I beat the world's number 1? I'd better eat. If that was the case, would Austin and the others be embarrassed? However, Pra Walton would probably feel a little awkward. After thinking for a while, Zhang Hai resisted the urge to say, I don't want to play anymore. Instead, he glanced at his opponent in front of him. To be honest, he was also quite embarrassed now. When he saw Zhang Hai looking over, he also smiled awkwardly. Come on, let's play a game for fun. Looking at his awkward appearance, Zhang Hai laughed. It didn't matter. Since they liked this kind of awkward atmosphere, he would play with them for a while. He had nothing to do anyway. Okay, there's a tennis court upstairs. Those who are interested can go and take a look. Hearing Zhang Hai's agreement, Austin and Brett looked at each other and then laughed. They seemed to have already seen Zhang Hai being defeated. However, even if Zhang Hai lost, it didn't matter. Zhang Hai didn't need fame. He wasn't in the professional sports circle. He wouldn't lose a piece of meat. These guys were a little inexplicable. Zhang Hai couldn't find it. Let's go. Hearing their words, Zhang Hai shook his head in his heart. If they want to play, then let them play. But to be honest, he really hadn't played tennis since he got the Dragon Balls. He was also a little curious. "Do you want to change your clothes?" Seeing Jiang Hai and Austin walk out, Walton immediately rushed over and whispered in Jiang Hai's ear. Then Jiang Hai moved a little. It was indeed a little uncomfortable and a little tight, but it didn't matter. Wasn't Djokovic also wearing a suit? Why did he have to be so serious about it? The news that Jiang Hai was going to play with Djokovic quickly spread throughout the hotel. Not only did many people who came to the dinner party come to watch out of curiosity, but even the hotel staff came to watch, and some even recorded it. When Jiang Hai and Djokovic stood on the court, everyone here was excited. The foundation of tennis in Huaxia was not very good. Although many people played it, it was far from basketball, football, and other national sports. Although there was Li Na in China, there were still very few people who could play tennis. However, tennis was quite popular in the United States. After all, there was one of the 4 Grand Slam tournaments, the US Open. Moreover, many of the ATP Masters tournaments were also in the United States, so tennis's foundation was quite good here. When Djokovic came on the court, the screams on the sidelines could be seen. As for Jiang Hai, to be honest, his favorite sport was basketball. Tennis was purely because of the cartoons he watched. He had almost forgotten what was shown in the cartoon because he did not watch it much after it changed from serious tennis to fantasy tennis. However, he still knew some of the basics. When he served, he had to hit the small square in the front half of the opponent's court. If he hit the line at the boundary, he would be considered in bounds. It was not like basketball, where if he hit the line, he would be considered out of bounds. There was also the posture of serving. Although he hadn't played it for a long time, he still had some memories. Let's play BO3. Best of 3. You serve first. Djokovic was a little embarrassed to be watched by others, so after both of them came on the court, he first threw the tennis ball to Jiang Hai and then whispered. He wanted to end the battle quickly. Jiang Hai naturally had no objection. He didn't know how strong he was, right? Jiang Hai and Djokovic's playing style was not like the 6 games and tiebreakers seen on TV. It was very simple. There were a total of 3 service games, such as 15-0, 30-0, and 40-0. Then, they would win 1 game. Best of 3. It was very simple. It didn't take long, at least in his opinion. Okay. Hearing his words, Jiang Hai also smiled. Then, he took the tennis ball and walked to his own service area. Compared to Djokovic, who brought his own exclusive tennis racket, Jiang Hai's was much simpler. He just took one casually with a tighter string. Then, he stood in position and threw a tennis ball high over. In an instant, all the strength in his body was concentrated in his right hand. Aiming at the tennis ball in the air, he made a split spike serve and hit it directly over. Pa! There was a loud noise. It was not a good sound. The tennis ball was like a cannonball. Everyone couldn't see the tennis ball clearly. They only felt that they saw a phantom, just like in anime. When the tennis ball was hit, it disappeared instantly, and then a phantom appeared. Then, there was a loud noise. The tennis ball had disappeared, but on the ground in front of Djokovic, there was a small pit. On the wall behind him, a tennis ball was directly embedded in the wall. After a while, it slowly fell down. What? What is this? Looking at the falling tennis ball and the pits on the ground and walls, everyone couldn't help but shut their mouths. How could such a situation happen? The ground and walls here were all made of cement. Cement. What was the probability of making 2 pits on the cement ground and walls? How fast was the speed of the serve just now? Many of the people who were recording immediately rewound the video because they really didn't understand it. They didn't understand it at all. This happened in front of their eyes. This can't be a movie stunt. What's going on? 15-0. Maybe it was because of the voices of the people behind him that the temporary referee was awakened. He shouted and then signaled Jiang Hai to serve. Hearing his words, Jiang Hai also started to serve the ball again. As for Djokovic, he also shook his head and forced himself to calm down. He really didn't think that the opponent turned out to be a heavy shooter. In the world of tennis, heavy shooters are quite common. They are very talented in serving. They are tall and strong, but these people are not very agile. He may not lose. Although it seems that Jiang Hai's serve may be more powerful than the world's strongest heavy shooter, he is still prepared to fight for his future. Well, 20% of the strength is not bad. Now, let's try 40%. After hearing the referee's words, Djokovic also reacted. Jiang Hai said with a smile. Then, under Djokovic's incredulous gaze, Jiang Hai threw the tennis ball high and then hit it directly with a faster speed. Whoosh, slap, slap. This time, it was even more terrifying. The tennis ball didn't even have a phantom. The moment Jiang Hai's racket hit the tennis ball disappeared. Then there were two sounds. When Djokovic and the others reacted, they saw that the small hole that was created by the tennis ball had become deeper. Almost a quarter of the tennis ball was embedded in the wall. After a long time, it slowly fell down. Djokovic and the others reacted. They saw that the small hole that was created by the tennis ball had become deeper. Chapter 1066. What the hell is this? What the hell is this? What the hell is this? Important things had to be repeated 3 times. At this time, not only Djokovic, but even the people who came to watch the game were dumbfounded. They looked at Jiang Hai. They really didn't know this guy. And what the hell was that serve? What kind of serve could make the ball disappear? That F***king exceeded the speed of sound. Austin and Brett, who were in the crowd, also glanced at Jiang Hai. They couldn't help but shrink their necks. This Jiang Hai was too terrifying. What kind of person could have such strength? This guy couldn't be a robot or an alien in human skin, right? 30-0. Although the referee was also stunned, he still reacted and said after rubbing his eyes, 30-0, still in that position, 60% strength. Looking at the stunned crowd, Jiang Hai looked at Djokovic in front of him and said with a smile. Hearing Jiang Hai's words, Djokovic licked his lips and then moved to that position. He was the world's number one. He couldn't admit defeat so easily. He had to at least fight back. Thinking of this, he couldn't help but take a deep breath. Then, he put the racket there and looked at Jiang Hai in front of him. Jiang Hai didn't try to frame Djokovic. He still hit the same position and threw the tennis ball high. Then, Jiang Hai exerted his strength and whipped the tennis ball in midair. Just like before, after a sonic boom, the tennis ball disappeared. Then, in an instant, the small hole in front of Djokovic deepened. At the same time, the racket in his hand flew away. Because the tennis ball changed direction this time, it didn't hit the wall just now. Instead, it hit another position. This time, it sank a quarter of the way into the wall and then slowly fell down. Seeing this scene in his trembling right hand, Djokovic was really dumbfounded. Even if you beat him to death, he still couldn't understand what was going on. This was not scientific at all. But there was no other way. Jiang Hai was also unscientific. When Djokovic was stunned, Jiang Hai had already taken the 4th ball. Now the score was 40-0. If Djokovic couldn't catch this ball, he would lose. Are you ready? Still in that position. Looking at Djokovic, Jiang Hai said with a smile while hitting the ball. Come on. The feeling of being crushed in front of Jiang Hai made Djokovic feel like he had gone berserk. After the victory and defeat came to his mind, he held the racket with both hands and made up his mind. This time, he must guard against Jiang Hai. Come on, 80%. Seeing that Djokovic was ready, Jiang Hai took a deep breath and threw the ball high. In an instant, blue veins popped out on his right arm. He waved the racket and smashed it towards the tennis ball. Pa! With an explosion, the tennis ball disappeared in an instant. In less than 0.1 seconds, almost the moment the tennis ball disappeared, the pit on the cement ground in front of Djokovic sank a little and expanded a little. In an instant, a huge force came from Djokovic's hand. He could only clench his teeth and try to hold on. He didn't hope to hit the ball back, but he just hoped that the racket wouldn't fly away. His persistence was rewarded. With both hands holding the racket didn't fly away this time, but he still couldn't stop the ball. Although the racket didn't fly away, the net wire couldn't withstand Zhang Hai's serve. Yes, just like watching a cartoon, when Zhang Hai served, the racket in Djokovic's hand on the other side exploded from the middle and penetrated. Yes, Zhang Hai's serve directly penetrated the racket in front of him. There was no chance at all. The good thing was that the audience could finally see the tennis ball this time. After penetrating the racket, the speed of the tennis ball finally slowed down, allowing people to see the process of the tennis ball hitting the wall. At this time, Djokovic's trembling hands also told everyone that he had lost. 1-0, change serve. Seeing that the ball was played, the referee swallowed a mouthful of saliva, but he still said seriously. However, just as he finished speaking, Djokovic had already thrown the racket in his hand to the ground. I admit defeat. What a joke. The racket was smashed. He didn't think that he could last another round against Zhang Hai. He knew very well that if he didn't recuperate for 10 days to half a month, he might not even be able to hold the cup steadily. Wow! Hearing Djokovic's words, everyone here couldn't help but exclaim. Originally, they came here to watch Djokovic abuse people, but they didn't expect that it would turn into watching Djokovic being abused. Who is that Asian man? Why is he so strong? Almost instantly, everyone was discussing the existence of Zhang Hai. To be honest, they had never seen or even heard of such a tennis player in their life. However, Zhang Hai didn't care about them. He walked over and patted Djokovic's arm. He returned the racket and then walked to the crowd. Looking at Zhang Hai's back, Djokovic smiled helplessly. He lost too miserably. Zhang Hai didn't mean to care about his mood. He just smiled and walked to the front of the crowd. The onlookers subconsciously opened up a path for them. Many of them were even recording the scene. Fortunately, this time, the hotel could be said to be the Walton family security personnel, and all of them had been dispatched. They dispersed these people and let Zhang Hai walk into the crowd. However, although Zhang Hai disappeared, the topic of these people's discussion didn't disappear. Some people even directly posted the video on the internet. The video was discovered as soon as it went online. Because the current number one in the tennis world, Djokovic, the video was quickly watched by many people. But after watching it, everyone's first thought was that this was a special feature of the computer. Because the ball that Zhang Hai played was clearly not something that could be played by humans. It was really scary to think about a completely disappearing serve. There were even some people who calculated a formula. If the things in the video were true, then Zhang Hai's serve would be more than 300 meters per second. What does 300 meters per second mean? Nowadays, serves were basically calculated according to a kilometer per hour. At present, the fastest serve in the tennis world was Isner, 253 kilometers per hour. If it was calculated according to Zhang Hai's speed of 300 meters per second, it would be 1,080 kilometers per hour. What does this mean? How fast is a high-speed railway? How fast is a plane? Zhang Hai's serve was close to the speed of sound? In fact, it was close to the speed of sound. Because when Zhang Hai played, there was a sonic boom before the ball was sent out. So, it was inevitable that there was no sound. However, this speed was also completely impossible. So basically, everyone on the internet thought that Zhang Hai's serve was fake and that it was a movie special effect. But when many of the same videos were posted on the internet, these people were a little embarrassed because there were really people who saw it with their own eyes. At the same time, there were also people who dug up news about Zhang Hai. The billionaire of Boston Winthrop, who once performed at the NBA All-Star Game, was also dug up by others. Such a guy naturally attracted a lot of attention. Especially in China, more people knew about Zhang Hai, but these people were just looking. Those who really knew Zhang Hai would not talk nonsense. At this time, Jiang Hai did not know this. After Djokovic admitted defeat, he went to eat German pork knuckle. After Pra Walton talked and laughed with everyone for a while, she also went to find Jiang Hai. "Dear, you are really amazing. Watching you play, I have some feelings." Looking at Jiang Hai, Pra Walton sat beside him, took his hand, and whispered. Hearing her words, Jiang Hai also smiled. Indeed, these words are really stimulating and will make a man have a special feeling. "Then, do you want me to treat you now?" Looking at Pra Walton, Jiang Hai whispered. "It's better not. The dinner is about to start, but I guess you won't be able to sleep tonight." Glancing at Jiang Hai, Pra Walton said with a smile. After the two ate some food together, the Walton family's dinner officially began. But to be honest, for people in the business world, the Walton family's dinner is naturally very important. This is not only an opportunity to make friends with influential people, but also an opportunity to curry favor with the Walton family. Almost no one will go against the Walton family's Walmart, because no matter what you do, it is basically related to the supermarket. You are a cattle farmer, a fruit farmer, a vegetable farmer, a light industrial worker, makeup, facial cleanser, wine maker, food maker, and even toilet seat maker. All of these are inseparable from this group. So, to curry favor with this family is actually a very important thing for everyone. But among these people, Jiang Hai is not included. Jiang Hai's appearance is giving them a lot of face. So at the dinner, after Roberson Walton finished speaking, Jiang Hai's mouth basically did not stop. Good wine, good food, one after another, he ate a lot. Pra Walton is naturally not next to him, she also has a guest to accompany. Just when Jiang Hai was about to go back to his room to play with Cheryl Lee and the others, a figure came in front of him. This made Jiang Hai raise his head and look at him with some surprise. Chapter 1067. Hi, Jiang, can we talk? Looking up, Jiang Hai looked at the person in front of him. Jiang Hai also knew this person. He is Pra Walton's brother, Jack Walton. Of course. Hearing his words, Jiang Hai pointed to the seat in front of him and said. Hearing Jiang Hai's words, Jack Walton also smiled, then sat opposite him and waved his hand. Naturally, there were people from the Walton family who drove away other irrelevant people. This is the Walton family's banquet, so naturally, no one will come to trouble him. I often hear my father and Pra Walton talk about you, but this should be the first time we meet face to face. Looking at Jiang Hai, Jack Walton said. It is indeed the first time we meet. I also heard Pra Walton talk about you. Hearing his words, Jiang Hai also said with a smile. Jiang, you know a little about our family. Looking at Jiang Hai, Jack Walton said to him. Listening to his endless words, Jiang Hai's mind also turned. He knew the purpose of this person's visit. As mentioned before, the Walton family's current situation is a bit of a shortage of young people. The second-generation children are already old, and among the third generation, the absolute candidate who can carry the flag has not appeared yet. At present, the most likely to take over as the chairman of Walmart is Jack Walton and Cooper Walton of Jim Walton's family. The only purpose of these two appearing in front of Jiang Hai is to win Jiang Hai's support. Jiang Hai is now an important guest of the Walmart group. He is a very important person. In such a case, his opinion, to some extent, could not only make the decision for Pra Walton, but also shake the hearts of other shareholders. However, compared to Cooper Walton, Jack Walton and Pra Walton had half the same blood. They had the same father but different mothers, so their relationship was indeed closer. That was why he took the initiative to talk to Jiang Hai, unlike Cooper Walton, who just came to show his face and then left. Unknowingly, he also talked with Jiang Hai for almost half an hour until Roberson Walton came to call him. Although he didn't say anything substantial to Jiang Hai, such as the benefits that will be given to Jiang Hai in the future, he talked a lot. Compared to others, his relationship with Jiang Hai is indeed closer and he knows more. After he finished speaking, Pra Walton also came over and looked at Jiang Hai with a smile. He must be annoyed. Looking at Jiang Hai, Pra Walton whispered. Just now, she was taken by her father to meet a lot of people. Of course, the only reason for this was to create time for Jack Walton and Jiang Hai to be alone. Pra Walton, who knows what her father means, can't say anything because she is also on her father's side. This is also the reason why her father let her mess with Austin. He naturally knew that Jiang Hai played tennis today, but he didn't say anything, which is a tacit consent. After going back, Pra Walton went to mess with Austin Walton. It seems that his favorite youngest son will have a harder time in the family in the future. It's okay. He didn't say anything messy. We just talked casually. Hearing Pra Walton's words, Jiang Hai also smiled. He was telling the truth. Jack Walton really didn't say anything messy. He didn't say anything like I'll take care of you in the future or what I'll do when I'm in power. They just chatted casually. Therefore, Jiang Hai won't be disgusted. Although he is a loser and an otaku, he is not autistic. If the other party comes to talk to him without hostility, he will naturally talk. As long as the topic doesn't make him feel disgusted, it doesn't matter. Well, do you want to go back to Atlantic City with me tomorrow? Seeing that Jiang Hai didn't feel disgusted, Pra Walton also nodded. She was most afraid that Jiang Hai would vent his anger on her because of her relatives. As long as he doesn't, it's the best. I won't go back tomorrow. I'm going back to the manor. Although there is nothing to do in the manor now, Jiang Hai still doesn't plan to go to Atlantic City. Pra Walton and her girlfriends are crazy when they play. It's okay to play for a few days occasionally, but if they go all the time, Jiang Hai will be a little overwhelmed. Then we should go back and rest. Hearing that Jiang Hai isn't going, Pra Walton pouted, but then she thought it through. She pulled Jiang Hai's arm and left. Looking at their backs, no one knew what the others were thinking. But after Jiang Hai goes back, he probably won't be able to sleep tonight. Sure enough, when they returned to the room, Jiang Hai found that these girls are already prepared. He doesn't know if it's because Pra Walton taught them well, but these girls are quite enthusiastic about that kind of thing. Although in Jiang Hai's house, everyone will wear some seductive clothes to seduce Jiang Hai, but more importantly, they want Jiang Hai to transform into a wolf and let him take the initiative. They are just obedient. Whatever Jiang Hai says, they will use the method of mixing their bodies to make Jiang Hai feel comfortable, but these girls are more wild. They will take the initiative. After seeing Jiang Hai and Pra Walton come in, these girls directly began to help Jiang Hai take off his clothes without saying a word. As soon as something that can't be traced comes out, it will be directly snatched and swallowed into their mouths. They don't even need Jiang Hai to do it, they will do it themselves. In addition, they will not let anyone rest at all. Generally, a battle is divided into front, middle, and back, but they don't. The battle will be white hot at the beginning, and it will be white hot at the end until everyone is exhausted. This is why Jiang Hai loves and hates them. It was a silent night. To be exact, it was not until noon of the next day. When Jiang Hai got up again, it was already past 11 o'clock. After getting up, he found that the beauties around him have disappeared for a long time. Looking at the card on the bedside, Jiang Hai smiled. After putting the card away, he went to take a bath. After having lunch in the hotel, Jiang Hai drove his car towards Winthrop. After several hours of driving, Jiang Hai returned to the manor before dinner. After coming back, although it has only been a few days, the girls in Jiang Hai's manor were very happy. After having dinner together, as usual, after Delina, Marian, and Taraga took a bath, they also took a bath together. Nobody knew what would happen during the bath, because Jiang Hai's bathroom was also covered. At night, hugging his favorite girls, Jiang Hai fell asleep peacefully. The next morning, when Jiang Hai woke up, he looked at the familiar ceiling in front of him and felt the familiar body beside him. At the same time, Jiang Hai revealed a smile. This was the environment that he was most familiar with. After taking a bath, he started to do what he did every day. First, he went to look at the horses and feed them. Then, he visited the pasture, the wharf, and the wine manor. After coming back, he would play with the cats and dogs for a while. After making tea, he would rest under the shade of a big tree and play with his mobile phone. This was his life, and he liked it very much. To be honest, who wouldn't like such a life? The following days once again returned to peace. Indeed, Jiang Hai didn't have any desire to pursue excitement or to upgrade himself. What he wanted to do was to live each day peacefully and enjoy his current life. That's all. As for what would happen in the future, it had nothing to do with Jiang Hai. He also didn't have the time or energy to think about it. It had nothing to do with him right now. His path of retreat, everything was already clear to him. He had never thought of changing the world, changing the country, changing the people, or even changing himself. He did not have the desire to help the world, nor did he have the intention to learn the civil and martial arts to sell to the imperial family. He was Jiang Hai, an extremely ordinary person. He lived according to his own thoughts and ideas. It was as simple as that. In the blink of an eye, June had passed, and July was almost over. The sun in Winthrop was getting hotter and hotter. Summer had officially arrived. Compared to basking in the sun outside, Jiang Hai preferred to stay in the room and enjoy the air conditioning. Winthrop was located in the north. Although the summer in the north wasn't as hot as in the south, it wasn't bad for Jiang Hai. Jiang Hai's women would go to the vegetable field or the vineyard in the morning when it wasn't too hot. After that, they would come back and stay at home for the whole day. Except for Delina, Marion, and Taraga, who would still wear pajamas, the others were basically wearing very light clothes. Sometimes, they would only wear a thin gauze or nothing at all. When Jiang Hai asked them to wear clothes, they would directly rub themselves against him. Indeed, there was nothing that couldn't be solved with one round of sex. If there was, then 2 rounds. If there was, then 3 rounds. There would always be a time when Jiang Hai would be too tired to care about them. Well, this was indeed a way. Jiang Hai couldn't do it. At this time, Chili called Jiang Hai. She was coming over soon. Chapter 1068. The airport in Boston, because it was always described, Jiang Hai was too lazy to look at it. He was really familiar with it. Early this morning, he drove his car and appeared on the outskirts of the airport, waiting for the arrival of Chili. Chili came this time because she had found a successor, but she simply wanted to give herself a vacation. Everyone else has paid leave, let alone her. After the company really had nothing important to do recently, she also had the idea of going to Jiang Hai's place, so she called and booked a time. She will come today. This time, she didn't need to take a civil plane, but she took Jiang Hai's private plane. It was really because the plane was parked there and there was nothing to do, so it was better to let them pick up people. Even if this time, only picking up 2 people, Jiang Hai doesn't care. It doesn't matter if the plane is empty, it's not like he doesn't have the gas money. Soon, Jiang Hai's mobile phone received a text message. Chili and Du Ning have already got off the plane and arrived at Boston International Airport. Not long after, 2 women with suitcases came out of the airport terminal. Jiang Hai recognized the 2 at first sight and immediately began to wave, and the 2 also sped up their pace. It's too hot. I thought it would be cooler here in Boston. As soon as she walked to Jiang Hai's side, Chili complained. Hearing her words, Jiang Hai couldn't help laughing. She really thought too much. The latitude here is about the same as the capital. How can it be cooler, but it can be better in the manner. If you still feel hot, we can sail to the sea to play. Hearing Chi Li's words, Jiang Hai also said with a smile. That's a good idea. Let's go. I can't wait to go to your home. Of course, I can also see my 2 sisters on the way. Hearing Jiang Hai's words, Chi Li also said with a smile, but Jiang Hai had no other choice but to smile awkwardly. As for Du Ning, he just looked at this pair with a smile and didn't interrupt. Let's go, let's go. After taking their luggage and putting it away, Jiang Hai wisely changed the topic and drove to Winthrop. It took about 20 minutes to drive from Jiang Hai's manor to the center of Winthrop. It took about an hour and a half to get from the manor to Boston. In fact, a normal car ride would take 2 hours. However, the monitoring facilities on the roads in the United States were quite bad. This was also a place that was far inferior to China. In the United States, except for some public places, there were very few cameras installed. This was because in the eyes of Americans, it was a violation of privacy and freedom. On the highway, although there would be traffic police from time to time, there were very few cameras installed on the road. For example, a few years ago, there was a very popular photo of someone touching something while driving. If this happened in China, it would be a scandal for that person. That person would lose his job because of this. But if this happened in the United States, then the traffic police would definitely be sued. This was an infringement of a person's copyright and privacy. In the car, it is the person's own private space. He can do whatever he wants. If he violates the rules, he will be fined, but if he is exposed, then this person will sue the traffic police department and the compensation will be hundreds of thousands of dollars or millions of dollars. So in the United States, there are few cameras on the road. Jiang Hai has been here for more than 3 years. Naturally, he is quite familiar with this road that he often travels. He naturally knows where there are cameras, where there are no cameras, and where to drive faster. With the excellent power of his car, a 2-hour drive can be reduced to an hour and a half. As Jiang Hai's car arrived in front of the gate, the artificial intelligence has automatically recognized Jiang Hai's image and opened the gate. Jiang Hai also drove to his parking lot. After the car stopped, Jiang Hai helped Qi Li and Du Ning take their luggage. The two have already stepped into Jiang Hai's villa. But once they entered, they couldn't help but be shocked. Because at this time, in Jiang Hai's room, except for Delina, Marian, and Taraga, there is a sea of white and red. Qi Jia, Chia, Ai Xiaoxi, Feng Yunchen, Aphrodite, Dana, Hilda, Paige, Sheila, Ohilia, Bridget, Janice, Azalina, Wallace Shelley, Ariel, and because of the company's holiday today, 19 of the 22 girls in the room are red. They are either lying, leaning, or standing. After seeing Qi Li and Du Ning come, they can't help but stand up. Some of them stood in place and looked at her timidly, and some of them directly greeted her, especially Qi Jia, Chia, Feng Yunchen, and Ai Xiaoxi. These 4 girls are quite miserable because of Qi Li. If they don't come over now, when will they come over? So as soon as they saw Qi Li coming over, they came over with a smile. Sister, you are finally here. Seeing Qi Li, Qi Jia couldn't help but say with a smile. Wait, I've heard that Westerners are open-minded before, but I didn't think that they would be so open-minded. Are you having an open-minded meeting? Seeing Qi Jia rushing over, Qi Li's eyes widened and she said with a look of surprise. What meeting? It's not like what you said, we are just doing it because it's very hot. Hearing Qi Li's words, Qi Jia couldn't help but pat her, and then said with a displeased look, but Qi Li looked at her as if she was saying, are you kidding me? It's true, it's just because it's very hot, and Jiang Hai is monitored by intelligent systems all around, so no one will peep. We are like this every day, except for a little shyness at the beginning, it's very comfortable. Hearing Qi Li's words, Chia also said with a smile at this time. Looking at her sister who was like a snow fairy, Qi Li couldn't help but sigh. It's really not easy to learn bad things. How long has it been since they came here? She actually became like this. Come on, let them experience it, and they will understand. Seeing that Qi Li and Du Ning were still a little reserved, Qi Jia didn't hesitate, and directly waved her hand, and the girls came over and began to help them release their natural instincts. When Jiang Hai came in with the luggage, Qi Li and Du Ning were almost undressed. Du Ning was better, she didn't resist, she smiled and let Azalina and the others take care of her, and then went to join them. However, Qi Li was still struggling, but it was useless, her clothes were still disappearing at a speed visible to the naked eye. Jiang Hai, help! As soon as she saw Jiang Hai come in, Qi Li, who was only protecting the last 2 pieces of clothes, couldn't help but shout loudly. But after hearing her cry, Jiang Hai could only shrug. He could only say that he couldn't help in such a situation. After putting the luggage down, he came back and found that Qi Li had been stripped naked. At this time, she was sitting on the sofa with her legs exposed, protecting her body, and glaring at the smiling guys around her. Well, since you're here, it means that you've accepted this situation. Jiang Hai has so many women, you can't always be mysterious. By the way, except for Du Ning, no one else has seen you do it. Since Jiang Hai is here, you can start now. Delina, Marian, Taraga, go back to your room, or your pocket money will be deducted. Seeing Jiang Hai coming downstairs and the shy Qi Li, Qi Jia came over and said with a smile. After that, she forced the 3 little girls to go downstairs. The other women then pulled Jiang Hai over and removed Jiang Hai's clothes. Hey, Jiang Hai, are you really going to do this? Looking at Jiang Hai, who was almost done with his preparations and was still being swallowed by several girls, Qi Li looked at her with a frightened face. What's the matter? Qi Li looked at Jiang Hai with a horrified face. This is public opinion, public opinion. Looking at the shy Qi Li in front of him, Jiang Hai didn't know what to think. After touching his head embarrassedly, he walked in front of Qi Li and lowered his head to kiss Qi Li's surprised lips. Of course, everything happened naturally. As for what happened next, of course, it couldn't be described. In the afternoon, Jiang Hai's group stayed in the parlor until the evening. When the moonlight turned dark, they all felt a bit hungry. Chia then ordered them to prepare dinner. Jiang Hai's group of over 20 people also sat at the dining table in an orderly manner. At this time, Qi Li and Du Ning seemed to have accepted their fate. They were naked and played with the other girls. In the dining room, the only 4 people who were wearing clothes were Jiang Hai, Delina, and the other 2. Looking at the scenery in front of him, Jiang Hai couldn't help but smile. He suddenly thought of his experience in the past 3 years. From the time he got the Dragon Balls, he sold them and bought a manor. Then he bought cows, raised fish, hired cowboys and fishermen. In order to get some unorthodox goods, he went to the underwater shipwreck to search for treasures. Then he met Du Feimin. Then he won a prize for beef and started to sell it. Then he became a man above others. What happened between him and Feng Yunshen at home for the first time? What happened when Feng Yunshen brought AI Xiaoxi to Jiang Hai for a photo? What happened with Aphrodite and the others? In order to cover up Aphrodite and the other situation, he met Qi Jia. What happened when Qi Jia brought Chia to the refugee ship overseas? What happened when he met Azalina? And what happened when Azalina took him to save Jelena and the others? Now, each scene was like a movie, constantly replaying in front of Jiang Hai's eyes. Some people said that he was a loser. Now that he was rich, he was just a loser. He had no ambition, he didn't deserve the word dragon. But he wanted to say that this was him, this was his story, this was the life he wanted. People live for a lifetime, plants and trees for an autumn. What they wanted was nothing more than one word, pleasure. Jiang Hai didn't live for others. Therefore, he felt that he was living a very good life, and that was enough. His current life couldn't help but remind him of a poem. From tomorrow onwards, I will be a happy person. Feed horses, chop firewood, and travel around the world. From tomorrow onwards, I will care about food and vegetables. I have a house facing the sea. Spring is warm and flowers are blooming. From tomorrow onwards, I will write to each of my relatives. I will tell them of my happiness. The lightning of happiness told me, I will tell everyone. I will give each river and each mountain a warm name. My blessings to you too, dear readers. I wish you a bright future. I wish you a lover would find a wife. I wish you happiness in the mortal world. I only wish to face the sea, with flowers blooming in spring. End of book. You're tuning into the Romantic Tales YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.